Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here to race number 7 of the first season of the NASCAR M&M's Cup Series here on the Blue Hedgehog TV. Getting set for Talladega for 19 laps of racing. Should be a fun race here today. On the pole position is Larry Hoyt in the 31 machine. Larry Hoyt had a bad race last week at Nashville as he was involved in our only caution of that race, and he dropped 5 spots down to 10th in the point, so he's looking for a bounce back result. Alongside of him, Austin LaGrange in the 74. He dropped 4 spots down to 29th position in the points. Austin Scott, who led the most laps, but had to settle for second. Still a good run for him. Jumped up 5 spots to 37th in the standings. Alongside is R Atikian in the 70, who comes into this race second in points, trying to run down L Bianchi for the points lead. A driver is starting in the 8th position. That is former Munster Energy Series champion Jacob Tutu, one of the former Trucks, Buffalo Wild Wings, and Munster Series interloper. He's only scheduled to run this race and this race only. Jacob Tutu runs in the Winston Cup Series, driving for Richard Childress Racing in the number 29 machine. As you look at the rest of the starting lineup, J Isley going to try to go 2 for 2 on restrictor plate tracks. Time to get these cars rolling off for 19 laps of racing here today. Let's go over the points table presented by Golden Corral. Help yourself to happiness. L Bianchi is the points leader by, as I mentioned, less than 10 points, 5 to be exact, over R Atikian. Sylvia Cunningham is 7 points back, third in the standings. C Bracken jumped 9 spots up to fourth in the standings. L Dorn dropped 3 spots down to fifth. Bushy Clements in 16 points back. He's tied with Z Panini in seventh. Aaron Crowder, eighth. Jeremy Isley, our winner from Daytona, is ninth. And 10th is Larry Hoyt, dropped 5 spots down after a poor finish last week. So with Jacob in the field, that will mean 44 drivers have taken a green. Of course, 41 of them are battling for the championship. The other 3 are just running a few races here, there, and everywhere. Next week, we'll have the 17 make a start. And it will be one of the former Munster Energy Series drivers. That would be Betty Barrett. Either Betty Barrett or Abigail Furling, one of those two, will be in that ride starting next week at Texas. We're going to be at Texas next week, as we're going to go from a super speedway to a 1.5 mile racetrack. That should be a lot of fun. But first, let's get in Talladega out of the way. However, this time for Talladega, we're not going to have any copyrights or any issues as far as that is concerned. Whereas the Oreo Cup Series, we had issues. Excuse me. As we're getting set to go racing here at Talladega, of course, Jacob Tutu getting a warm-up race as he prepares for Talladega later in the year for the Winston Cup Series. As we come into the tri-oval, the start-finish line not in the center of the tri-oval like it is at Daytona. And here we go. Race number 7 is underway. Let's go racing at Talladega, drivers. Funny thing is, we were just at Nashville last week. That is where Oreo Cup Series were coming from last night. They raced at Nashville. Jacob Tutu and some other drivers like Lauren Ekstrom, his team owner, they're heading to Las Vegas this weekend to race the Las Vegas weekend. Of course, we have Craftsman Trucks, Busch, and Winston Cup Series coming your way from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That's on the same. And then next week, as we have our motorsports calendar, which I didn't bring that up, next week we're going to have the Red Bull GT Series. Note these time changes because of the times. We have the Red Bull GT Series. They're going to be in China at the Shanghai International Circuit. Go or go home qualifying will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then they'll go racing at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Chinese Grand Prix. Then we'll have the Oreo Cup Series from Gateway. Should be a lot of fun. These drivers, as I said, will be at Texas. That's actually going to be on a Friday because the Truck Series are off this weekend. And then Jacob Tutu will return to Talladega as we get ready for Busch and Winston Cup Series right here at Talladega Super Speedway. As we're almost wrapping up the first half of the regular season for that series, believe it or not. So, reminder: the M&M's Cup Series will be on a Friday, a rare Friday for these drivers. They'll be at Texas Motor Speedway. We'll be back to Talladega here for Busch and Winston Cup, coming your way from Talladega Super Speedway. Because trucks, by the way, finished their first half of the regular season last week at Las Vegas. Or, actually, wait a second. They will wrap it up tomorrow. I'm sorry. I tell a lie. Because this is, by the way, May 8th. Jacob Foster going to the inside of Larry Hoyt. Larry Hoyt was 10th in the points table. Jacob Foster, who had a poor finish last week, dropped 2 spots down to 39th in the points. And Austin LaGrange in the 74 dropped 4 spots down to 29th in the points. Talladega is a track where it caters to the underdog, a driver who is struggling in the standings. The following week at Texas, after Texas, we head to 3 straight road course races. We have 3 road course races coming up. Which I'll pull up the week of May 15th. Or no, this is May. Hold on. Actually, Texas is on May 15th. May 15th. I'm sorry. I was talking about the week after that. Red Bull GT Series will be off. So it'll probably be on a Monday. Because Red Bull GT Series will be off. So I'll have our next race on Monday, which will be Sonoma. Then we head to the Windy City of Chicagoland Speedway for Go or Go Home qualifying for the Oreo Cup Series as they're about to finish up their chase to the chase for the championship. Go or Go Home qualifying at 9 a.m. at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our 22nd race of the season. And then Busch and Winston Cup will be going to the track we'll be going to later on in the season, Michigan International Speedway. Then Red Bull GT Series will be back for their race at New Zealand, the track that made its debut in the Oreo Cup Series. You'll see that race that following Monday. These drivers will be at the track that Oreo Cup Series will be at, Papyrus. That is what we got coming up. Or actually, they're going to have 2 road course races. They're going to be at Papyrus, and then they're going to Watkins Glen straight away. So they're going to get like a 2-day two races that week. They'll race on a Tuesday at Papyrus, and then that following Friday or Saturday, they will be at. Actually, no. That Friday they'll be at Watkins Glen because that week Trucks and Busch are off because we have All Star Race Weekend for the Winston Cup Series drivers. Because we will have the Winston Open. I think it's called the Shootout. Let me double check that to be sure. As by the way, Larry Hoyt just retook the lead. Yes, Winston Cup Shootout. Now, actually, be on a Thursday for that'll be earlier in the day. We'll have the M&M's Cup race at Watkins Glen. Later that night, we'll have the Winston Open Shootout for the Winston Cup Series drivers. Then that next night, we'll have the Winston Open and the Winston. So that should be fun. And then we wrap up our. Then I don't know where we go. I think we go to Michigan after. We go to Michigan. I think we go to Hillside. Actually, no, we go to Hillside after Watkins Glen. Because Red Bull GT Series will be off. They'll be joining the Oreo Cup Series drivers. And then Trucks, Busch, and Winston Cup Series begin their chase to the chase at Charlotte. So those are the races we got coming up. As, by the way, we're past the halfway point. Checking the back of the field, Maxie Chilton's back here, along with Ayrton D. Silva. There's Ellie Rose. So those are your upcoming races as far as that is concerned. And of course, Oreo Cup Series just finished racing at Nashville last night. They had go or go home qualifying on Tuesday. The race was last night. We're racing Talladega today. Then tomorrow we begin our Las Vegas weekend with Trucks, Busch, and Winston Cup Series. Of course, for the Truck Series, that is their final race until Charlotte, which they will be off for a couple of weeks. Should be a fun rest of the season coming up. Of course, Oreo Cup Series is almost done with their season. Of course, hope you will join us for the rest of the Oreo Cup Series, and hope you'll join us for the part I like to call the chase to the chase for Trucks, Busch, and Winston Cup Series. Because I know in November, when NASCAR season ends, we still have champions to crown for that series. By the way, nobody had any issues going to the green, by the way. Oh, got a problem. Well, as soon as I say that, looks like Jake Brentley is in trouble. Mechanical failure is the engine or whatever has expired on that Ford Mustang Dark Horse out of Haas factory team, excuse me. Still trying to get used to saying that. That held up a bunch of drivers. Can't believe I just jinxed that. God damn it, me. There's Zachary Well, it says Zachary Fitzwater there. That's Annie Thomas, who's filling in for Fitzwater until he's medically cleared to race. But Fitzwater is going to get the points, nevertheless. Dylan Cunningham. Skylar Taylor's back here. There's Jacob Tutu. Currently in the 19th position. Remember, Jacob Tutu went on a tear during the Monster Energy Series. I mean, earlier in the season, he was struggling, found a win at Golden State Motorsports Park, then went on a tear, got enough wins to qualify for the playoffs, and eventually went on to win the championship, which is the first time a Canadian driver on this channel's history won the championship, which was very impressive if I say so myself. Of course, Jacob not running for the championship in this series. He's just using this race as a test to help him get ready for next week's Winston Cup Series race, which will be a fuel mileage race, which I'll have Cody Smart in the booth for the Winston Cup race here at Talladega next week. Be at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week. Larry Hoyt, is leading this race still. There's Harold Farquesco, I should say. Haven't talked much about Harold Farquesco in recent weeks. Gained 6 spots to 32nd in points. There's baby CJ. And if anybody's asking who won the Talladega Oreo Cup Series race because it was only a 2 minutes, just to throw this out, it would be that guy right there, Josh Harmon. Of course, he drives for Spire Motorsports. It was his first career Oreo Cup Series win here at Talladega. Unfortunately, you didn't get to see all of the race because, one, my roommates copyrighted me while they had The Simpsons on. And instead of a 30-minute video that I promised you all, it was only a 2-minute video. Which is a shame because I was looking forward to see what you guys would have thought of all the strategies. So that's too bad if you ask me, as we're down to 2 laps of racing to go here at Talladega Superspeedway. And of course, Josh Harmon, who got the win at Talladega, as he comes, and of course he raced last night. He comes into this race 31st in the points. And he's only 35 points back of 30th in the standings. Of course, in the Oreo Cup Series, you need to be in the top 30 in the points to have your win count for a spot into the playoffs. And Josh Harmon is 31st in the points over in that series. So right now, his Talladega win would not count for a spot in the playoffs, as we're on the last lap, by the way, presented by Credit One Bank. So Josh Harmon will need to start getting some good results if he wants to make the season's chase for the championship. He will, however, be in the All-Star race. As looks like nobody's going to have an answer for the 31. Here's an ironic thing. The 31 in real life won with Jeb Burton. Or no, the 27, Jordan Anderson Racing, won with Jeb Burton behind the wheel in the real life Xfinity race. Here in the M&M's Cup Series, it's going to be Larry Hoyt giving Jordan Anderson Racing their first M&M's Cup Series win at Talladega. And how the ironic has happened in this series. 27 drivers in the lead pack, by the way, as the standings are now official. R Dorn will get second. JP Latiro, haven't talked much about him in the last couple of weeks in that double zero as he comes away with third. So you need to go back to the M&M's points. And where's that double zero coming in this race? 36 in the points. So a well-needed run for him. A couple of drivers who are struggling in points. And I haven't alluded to this. Talladega, that caters to the underdog drivers that are struggling in the points. This is really going to help them in the chase for the championship as far as that is concerned. Evelyn Marsh in fourth. There's been some rumors that some teams in the Foster Series are eager for her services for the final season. We'll see how that will go out. Baby CJ will be back in the Foster Series next season, finished in fifth. Tori Gossett, Bushy Clements, L Bianchi, by the way, will be in the All-Star race for the Foster Series, which I haven't announced when that date will be revealed, but I will reveal it after this season is done. Connor Breton ninth, and Aaron Crowder complete the top 10. So good run for Aaron Crowder. And he was in the top 10 of the points, so he will stay in the top 10 of the points leaving today. Connor Breton, 16th in points, is going to move up. L Bianchi is going to keep the points lead heading into next week's race, because the guy that was trying to run him down for the points lead, as you look on down to the remainder of the finishing result, looks like we had another driver who had a mechanical problem. R Atikian finished 31st, came as race second in points. Sylvia Cunningham, 38th, came home, was third in points entering this race. Ellie Rose was the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Shane Scott, not sure entirely what happened to him, as apparently he finished one lap down for some apparent reason, so not sure what the issue was on his Toyota. That's a tough break for him. And his teammate Austin Scott did not reach the conclusion of the race, along with Jake Brentley. Both had camshaft issues on their Ford Mustang, Dark Horse, and Toyota Supras, respectively, and that's why those two cars ended up finishing behind the wall. Jacob Tutu, 20th. Not the finish he would have liked, but for Jacob, it doesn't really matter because he's not running for the championship in this series. He can use that confidence going into the Winston Cup Series race here next week at Talladega. So we'll see how that goes. But congratulations to Larry Hoyt on the win here today at Talladega. If you enjoyed today's race from Dega, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the World Racing Association crew today. This copyrighted broadcast is presented by the authority of the World Racing Association and the Blue Hedgehog TV for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction or rebroadcast or retransmitted or any other disseminations or the use of this broadcast, easy for me to say, without the express written consent of the World Racing Association, the Blue Hedgehog TV is prohibited. Blue Hedgehog TV want to thank you fans for your support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. We showed your full finish results. The points, I bet you, are going to get shaken up after Talladega played its part in shaking up the points heading into next week at Texas Motor Speedway. But we still got to finish up this race weekend as we are off to Las Vegas for Trucks, Busch, and Winston Cup. Truck Series final race of the first half of the regular season for those drivers. Busch and Winston Cup still have a couple more races till we get to All-Star Race Weekend. Next week, Red Bull GT Series is going to be, as I look at the schedule, next week, Red Bull GT Series is going to be off. I think. Nope, they're at Shanghai. These drivers will be at Texas Motor Speedway. That will be on a Thursday. Before that, Oreo Cup Series will go racing at Gateway, and then Busch and Winston Cup Series will be right here at Talladega Super Speedway for their respective races, their 10th and 12th races of the season. Until then, I've been D Ebrahimian signing off. We'll see you guys next time. As you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the World Racing Association of Grace Racing since 2013.